Personal statements are not easy to write, and we do recognise this as admissions tutors. At the same time, we are reading hundreds, if not thousands, of these statements every year. So you need to prepare to write a good personal statement, one that leaps off the page and one that makes me think, yes, I want you. As with all things to do with university, that involves research. The first thing that you need to do before you even begin to write your personal statement is to start researching the courses you want to apply for. You need to start using your skills as an online detective. You need to start looking at the online prospectuses, but going further than that. Most websites, most online prospectuses will have links to further information. That's an invitation to you to look at the course structure. Look at what the modules are offering.
Every single programme around the country of the degree of interest to you will probably have the programme specification online. It will probably give you a lot of information about the course content, about assessment methods, about all of the different topics you'll be studying and the methods through which you'll be learning. Make sure you engage with that process, because if you don't, then it might be that you're in for a real surprise once you get to university.
You want to start thinking about, first of all, what do these terms mean? What do they mean to me? And secondly, how can I work them into my statement? So reflecting the language back and showing that you understand what it is we're offering is really important.
As you start to prepare your personal statement, I think the most important thing is to take your time. Don't leave it till the night before you've been told by your school or college you have to hand a draft in. You need to start weeks, if not months in advance, thinking about what it is that's genuinely led you towards applying for that course, writing down long lists of what you've done and starting to gradually trim it down. And don't just focus on what the course you're applying for. Think about other interests, wider hobbies, other responsibilities you have, work you've been doing. Start writing a long list, write a long statement and trim it down. It's much, much easier to reread a statement and cut out the bits you think aren't relevant than it is to try and pad something that's only half a side.
Simply start literally with a blank sheet of paper. List out in sort of 2 columns, if you like, subject-specific reasons why they're interested in that subject. What was it that motivated them or inspired them to get interested in the subject? Support that with examples. Talk about perhaps which elements of the subject most impress them. On the other column, they should talk a little bit about some of their extracurricular activities. Do they get involved with clubs or societies? Do they have part-time jobs? What skills do they think that they've learned from those part-time jobs? And how can they bring those 2 areas together to complete a picture, if you like, of the individual?
A good personal statement should consist of a few things. What you need to do is, number 1, to have a clear structure when you are actually doing your personal statement.
Think about the subject, why it is that you're applying for it and what it is that you love about it, and how you can get that across in your personal statement. The second thing is that we really want to know that you're enthusiastic and love the subject as much as we do. If you're going to be spending the next 3 years of your life doing it, then you better really love that subject. So it's quite good to think to yourself, okay, how can I demonstrate that? And maybe that's through extracurricular activities. Quite often when I'm reading chemistry personal statements, maybe they do an after-school chemistry club, or they do peer-assisted learning where they help the younger years do science or do chemistry, or they go to talks. So you can mention all of those extracurricular activities that you've done in your personal statement to demonstrate that you really, really, really love the subject.
You might, for example, have an interest in psychology, which is my own subject, and you might have done some work experience, for example, in a nursery, or you've done some babysitting, and you'd pursued that interest by reading a book on developmental psychology and gone from there to talk about a particular experiment or a particular area of developmental psychology that interested you. There are many things on YouTube or programs on Radio 4 that are relevant to subjects. Go and listen to some materials, try and find something that excites you, and then go away and pursue that. You might read The Economist or The New Scientist to follow up on ideas, but just try and engage with your subject and convey that interest in your own personal way.
The best personal statements stand out actually because they seem genuine. They sound authentic. It sounds like somebody is really talking about what they're actually interested in. And it is that, going back again, it's that why. Why are you doing things? So if you want to apply to do English, you love reading, great, everyone can say that. The best statement will go on and say which particular novels, which genre, which author you've read, what that's led you on to read afterwards. Might compare and contrast a couple of novels that you've looked at. Give you a real analysis of what that student's about, where they're coming from.
What I have noticed over the years is students that really catch my attention are the students that do two things. Number one, they can convince me that they are more motivated than anybody else to study this particular degree. Now this comes back to doing that research that I spoke to you about in my very first point. So can you show me that you are going to be the future of this particular topic matter? And also, the second thing is, can you reflect on the skills that you have?
What we're interested in is you showing us what you know about the course, showing us the skills that you have that you think would be relevant to that course, and most importantly, evidencing those claims. Everyone can say I'm a great organiser, but you need to demonstrate an example, preferably from your schooling, where you've shown great organisational skills. Or you might say, I work very well as part of a group, because you've noticed that there's some group work that's involved in media studies. Fine, show me where you've done that group work. Explain to me how you overcome challenges when you work in groups. Sometimes when it comes to personal statements, there are things that do turn me off, I have to admit. They fall into a number of different categories. The first I would say is the work experience category. My aunt is a journalist. My dad runs a television company. I'm not awarding you a degree in nepotism, so I'm not really interested in how your family owns various portions of the media industry. I am interested in work experience, if it's relevant, and if you got it off your own back. My second is general statements. Ever since I was young, I loved film. Well, who doesn't? Yeah? Or, oh, I'll tell you another good one, yeah. In my free time, I like socialising and hanging out with my friends. You'd be a really strange person if you didn't like those two things. So I would suggest that those aren't actually good things to say. It doesn't tell me anything about you other than the fact that you're a probably sane and rational and quite nice person. There's a statistic that's really quite alarming about the number of personal statements that begin from a young age. I've been interested in accounting or business studies or media studies or whatever it might be. Don't start from a young age. We're not interested in your formative years. What we are interested in is what you've been doing very recently.
I think one of the major problems on personal statements is where the statement doesn't relate to the course for which you've applied. We typically get this where people have 4 applications for medicine and then put some random course like engineering on the end. If we get an application for engineering that has actually got a personal statement about medicine, it will just go straight in the bin. Very often when people are applying for more than one course, they haven't quite decided what they're going to apply for. The statement ends up falling between 2 stools. So if you've applied for both psychology and sociology, you'll find that the statement is not really a fit for either of them. So try and focus on a particular course that you've chosen.
The main thing that would put us off a candidate based on their personal statement is if it's badly written. I think in this day and age there's absolutely no excuse for not running it through a spell checker. If you're applying for a course that doesn't map nicely onto school curriculum, then you've got to work even harder to make it clear that you understand what the course is about. So for example, if you're applying for neuroscience or anthropology, quite often if I talk to those admissions tutors, they have to reject people because it's clear they haven't really understood what the course is about.
Get other people who know you well to read it. If you're in school or college, they'll no doubt go through the personal statement with a fine-tooth comb with you and tell you what to include and not include. But get other people to read it, parents, family, friends, people who know you well, and make sure that what they're looking at represents you. They may well think of things that you've just forgotten to mention. And if they read the statement and say, well, who's this? And it doesn't seem a true reflection of you, then start again, because it's about you. It is a personal statement. There's no right or wrong in how you do it. It's about trying to get down a genuine articulation of what you're about, where you're going, why you're applying.